Thank you very much, Mayor Giuliani, and what a perfect segue into our next speaker, Michael Moukezi, the former Attorney General of the United States. So, at this time, let's hear it for Judge Michael Moukezi.
It is a great and humbling honor to be introduced by somebody who is so obviously the representative of a great political tradition in this country. You know, it seems as if we've come together many times to discuss the plight of MEK, and particularly the plight of the 3,400 residents of Ashraf. Of course, that's not how it was supposed to be. In 2003, when coalition forces invaded Iraq and encountered the residents of Ashraf, the Ashraf residents peacefully surrendered the weapons they had, and they had both heavy weapons and light weapons to defend themselves, but they surrendered them willingly to coalition forces. And they received in return a guarantee that they would be treated as protected persons under the Fourth Geneva Convention. In fact, that guarantee was signed in behalf of coalition forces by a U.S. general. They received identity cards that carried the telephone number of the military police commanded by another U.S. general, General Phillips. As I'm sure you know, because we've heard the story several times, an earlier administration, in the belief that it would help open a dialogue with the mullahs, had put MEK on the State Department's list of foreign terrorist organizations. And so as a precaution, the FBI went in 2003 and 2004 and evaluated each of the residents of Ashraf to make certain that none of them was a terrorist. And in each case, the FBI certified that in fact none were. The Iraqis have been acting increasingly at the direction of the Iranian government now that the United States has withdrawn from Iraq, and the Maliki government, indeed Nouri al-Maliki himself, has now decreed that Ashraf must be closed. At first, he wanted to force the residents of Ashraf back to Iran or to scatter them within Iraq so they could be picked off one by one by the end of 2011. But he's agreed to stay his hand for a couple of months, provided they relocate to a military outpost that was abandoned by U.S. troops when they left Iraq and was subsequently looted by the Iraqis, that goes by the name Camp Liberty. Camp Liberty. Even though the space at Camp Liberty is a tiny fraction of the space that the residents of Ashraf have where they are, even though there are no medical facilities at Camp Liberty, no recreational facilities, even though the details of how the residents of Ashraf will obtain food and drinking water have not even been worked out. We've been told, you've been told, the residents of Ashraf have been told by the U.S. State Department that this is in fact progress, that the residents of Ashraf must recognize this progress and make up their minds to move to Camp Liberty, even though arrangements to resettle them have not yet been made. You know, I once had an uncle who the family said died of progress. That's right. He went into the hospital, and each day the doctor used to come by and say he was showing progress. And then one day he died. And we all concluded that he must have died of progress, because that's all he was showing, according to the doctor. The State Department reminds me of that doctor. But of course it's even worse than that, because the potentially fatal disease that the residents of Ashraf have comes from a U.S. designation of MEK